50 Cent in the 2000s dropped undoubtedly one of the greatest albums in rap history, breaking Billboard records while simultaneously revamping the entire mixtape industry. But what happens when one creates some of hip-hop's pop classics just to find out their real talent isn't rap, but humiliation?
Want to know why?
Yeah.
Because 50 can't rap.
Making money and building businesses, all from the simple fact of having the brutal ability to embarrass others, some to never recover.
It's the next to Mace. It's the next to Jock. It's the next. Look, Puffy might be the destination for anybody going nowhere.
All right, and I stay away from those things. That's how Kanye up.
This is the story of a rapper who internalized pain and pettiness.
Even 50 Cent turned against me.
You'll love your enemies and hate your friends. Your enemies remain the same, your friends always change.
Targeting others in his craft for questionable reasons, even to the point where he would sacrifice his own stability.
You said, if Kanye's album beats mine, I will get out of the business.
Yeah, well, you know, I say a lot of things and I don't mean it.
Vitamin, word up! None of those other guys would do that.
Using humiliation as not only a method of revenge, but a weapon.
What the?
Defining his life after the bars depleted.
If Sean Combs watches this, what do you think he's going to feel?
Like, wow, this is amazing.
This is the cap story of 50 Cent.
You got cap in your raps. You got cap in your raps.
To understand how this weapon of humiliation worked, you first have to look at how 50 Cent uses it today.
What they consider a pre-existing beef for 20 years is me being uncomfortable with him suggesting that he takes me shopping.
In the modern era, Curtis Jackson no longer needs music to dominate conversations. Public trolling, business leverage, and social media humiliation have replaced diss records. Rivalries surface not through bars, but through memes, lawsuits, and financial pressure. The weapon never changed, only the delivery system. But this didn't start online. It started on the streets of Jamaica, Queens, New York. When Curtis Jackson first hit the mixtape scene, initially no one could predict the impact he would have, naming himself after one of Brooklyn's scarcely known street legends. 50 would have what will become a familiar way to get his name known in the tri-state area, humiliation. What will be masked in bars will be a common theme with 50's first mixtape classic, How to Rob. He'd run down the list of every popular New York artist at the time, highlighting the weakness of each. Some would take it as jokes and stunts, others wouldn't. Curtis, aka Boo Boo's, actions will be ahead of their time, creating an environment of rage bait that would eventually get him a bar from Hove himself. Bar that Boo Boo would capitalize on.
Go against chicken, your ass is a bitch. I'm about $1. What the f is 50 cents? They go to war.
The rage bait worked. Next, he would carry on and make a song detailing all the street doings in Jamaica, Queens.
Supreme was the businessman and Prince was the killer. Remember? He used to push the bulletproof BM, His head get you seasick. I sat back and peeped shit. They wrote with easy water then.
Now this was all because he didn't like the way that he was getting treated, probably by the hottest artist at the time that we all know as Ja Rule. The streets wouldn't take this song lightly, and that's when the bullets would launch. According to Who's Telling the Story, Curtis was hit with anywhere from 5 to 9 shots. His How to Rob rage bait got him blackballed, and Street Quran almost got him killed. Story over. At least for the average troll, but not Curtis. How could he quit when he would just be remembered as being embarrassed and humiliated? So he appeared again, placing his life on the line, which was the name of the actual song, Life on the Line.
Nobody likes me.
Even with all the buzz, no one wanted to touch 50 in the New York market, including Diddy. Though the buzz, the look, and the style was there, Sean Diddy would pass on Curtis, which would eventually make him a lifelong enemy. Thankfully for Boo Boo, he garnered a fan who was watching in the background. He would take his talents out west to align himself with one of the newest labels gaining momentum, Shady Records / Aftermath. He was not only back, but he was on top. And all that lingering street beef that he created would start to turn into some real currency. No need for a long explanation here. Ja Rule would become the face of rap beef L's even up until recently. This would happen from 50 using his #1 talent, humiliation. This, along with an FBI investigation that ended Murder Inc. for good and leaving a bad stain on Ja Rule's career, in fact, an everlasting one. All Murder Inc. would have left is claims that they were dealing with the rat the whole time.
And you ran to the precinct and pressed charges on us, and the really death blow, you took out an order of protection.
50 would move on this, replicating Ja Rule to a T, creating one of hip-hop's most infamous breakout albums, Get Rich or Die Trying. The album would break records, but would also send Boo Boo into a crazed cycle of attempting to humiliate anyone and everyone in New York for one reason or another, adopting a formula copied by many to use beef to launch an album. While it was done by a few rappers before, this became a signature move for Curtis. Since his machine was running on humiliation rather than music, that means everyone would be fooled.
You'll love your enemies and hate your friends. Your enemies remain the same, your friends always change.
Including his own self-created crew, G-Unit. What he did to the game was a masterclass of a pupil, not yet battle-tested enough to accomplish beating the sensei, with 50 introducing Jason to the door live on air, leaving the game with a cap story he would tell for years.
Me and 50 stared each other in the eyes with guns drawn. Guns drawn. 50 Cent went out the back door of the radio station in his security.
A story you can hear about more on the game, The Bap of Bompton. Let's just say Jason would become a prime example of a revolving door that saw G-Unit, member after member, exiled from 50's presence. He exposed Young Buck for owing him a $250,000 debt, still blocking any of his music even till today.
Man, for me paying you back, it's always been on. I mean, I should have really been. It's no excuse I can honestly say about me borrowing you the money that I owe you and should have not paying you back. But for
even 50's first artist, Lloyd Banks, will be berated and then released with the name Curtis labeled him as Lazy Lloyd.
You'll love your enemies and hate your friends. Your enemies remain the same, your friends always change.
The only original member left will be Yayo, who was basically once starved into submission, stating even he had an expiration date.
As much bullets I took for G-Unit, my mom's crib shot up, almost killed my sis and my niece. Now I'm compared to milk. I made that brand.
Through time, the humiliation would start to overcome the bars. Crazy enough, 50 would once state that one should be very selective of beef, a statement he would never live up to.
Avoid altercations at all costs. If it's not worth killing them, don't pursue it.
An era would begin of 50 Cent pretty much trying to humiliate anybody who he deemed relevant. And the music quality, it started to decline. So comedy and skits begin to replace bars. This became obvious when 50 viciously maneuvered to clown Cam and the Dipset, who were ran out of the Rockefeller office and now became independent.
I just want to see what's going on. You can shut down diplomat projects.
I'm not talking about diplomats. Cam, did you really want that?
Nah, that's what I was asking.
Being independent was a move ahead of its time that would even make millions for Cam and Jimmy.
Well, Lloyd Banks is at 300,000.
Hey, he's on a major, and Jimmy's at 300,000.
Right. And
but Cam and Jimmy were going through their own problems at the time, which 50 would take advantage of.
Man, Jim Jones right here.
He'd use comedy to attack, a move that Cam was not afraid of, though Cam would declare Curtis ain't got the bread he got, which would turn into Big Cap, because Curtis, for years, was profiting off of a 10% stake of vitamin water, which would sell to Coca-Cola for $4.1 billion. Now, this is where Boo Boo would take one of his biggest risks yet. He will prepare his album using his humiliation tactic again, but this one would change rap for good. Challenging a young Kanye West who was gaining momentum with a style not gangster friendly. Well, Curtis was so confident that he'd win, he bet his career that he'd outsell the Rockefeller artists. But wait, before we get too far in this video, please do me one small favor and apply pressure to that subscribe button.
How are both of y'all feeling right now? It's 11th of September. How are both of y'all feeling?
I'm feeling good. You know I'm a lead.
In a shocking turn of events, West candidly defeated Curtis in first week sales, placing him on an elite level of artist where he himself would explode to become a billionaire. The industry would finally move past the 50 Cent era. It sucks because since Curtis rose to the top, adapting the language and style of other regions, taking the New York gritty sound away from mainstream, it would never return again.
You ruined New York City hip hop. You went after everybody.
Look,
you tore it down. You tore it down.
He was the program director during that period. He passed the buck to me. He said, he was running radio.
Well, now everyone was expecting it to be a wrap for 50 and retirement would begin. Well, Curtis would say it was all fake, cap.
You said, if Kanye's album beats mine, I will get out of the business.
Yeah, well, you know, I say a lot of things and I don't mean it.
That still didn't stop 50's 2008 run, which he would gross more than any rapper alive, and he would not be quiet about it. His money was not under the radar. Thus, his first baby mama would drag him to court for $50 million, calling Boo Boo cap for telling her he'd give her money forever. At the time, she was already getting child support, plus took control of Boo Boo's former mansion. Well, someone decided to burn that house down to the ground, with his baby mama and first son Marquise barely escaping.
Tried to kill me and his own child.
But the stars were aligned for Curtis to finally get a taste of the medicine he'd been dishing out. This time, he will become the prey. And what will come off as an easy win for Curtis will be anything but, and notably would lead to the end of his illustrious run, musically and financially.
Vitamin, what up? None of those other guys would do that. That wasn't part of the skit.
When Curtis and Ricky would get into it, almost no one would predict how far this rivalry would go. The two were at opposite points of their career musically. 50 was on a decline, while Ricky was in the midst of building his empire. The main problem would be Curtis continuing to up the ante on Ross.
I want to introduce you to everybody. Say hi.
Hello, hi, I'm Tia, the mother of Rick Ross's son.
With humiliation tactics that would backfire. He would start the trend of finding enemies' tainted relationship with exes and take them shopping. He even created a character, Pippin Curly, to troll the Florida boss.
Yeah! Officer Ricky, when I get you, I'm gonna cut you. Hey.
On top of that, we all thought it was a wrap for Ross when 50 exposed him as a former correctional officer, Officer Ricky. A fact that for sure deserves its own cap story. Surprisingly, Ross would make it through all of this by trolling back and releasing decent music. And capping for years, he was never a correctional officer.
Recently accused you of working as a prison guard at one point, Rick. Is there any truth to that?
No, that's not true.
But 50 would do himself in, leaking a sex tape of Ross' baby mama, Tia, which would cause her to take him to court and file for punitive damages. The only resolve would be for 50 to file Chapter 11 bankruptcy in what will be one of the biggest cap cases in bankruptcy history. While trolling the courts even of being broke, though 50 would try to lead a perception of capping to the court system that did not stop the industry from giving Boo Boo everything he issued out to others, humiliation. But in the shadows, Curtis plotted his next move, suddenly signing a deal with Starz Network to start up an episodic thriller called Power. The series will be a mashup of every drug movie ever made with a mix of production and writing so horrible it could have been on Tubi. The show would be a hit, more so pushed by an intense online fan base. It was focused around the life of a fictional character named Ghost, played by Amari Hadrick, who almost right on cue would begin to have run-ins with Curtis. So the character would be murked off while a way less successful off-brand would continue. This is where Curtis's head would literally become noticeably bigger. Once again, everyone is food.
In any case, like Cat Williams could fight a 15-year-old kid that is his height. And not do so well, right? I didn't look at this.
Even 50 Cent turned against me. You don't want him as an enemy. But then I realized I ain't never done nothing to him in my life. Then I got mad. You across me and you got a square head? Only two square-headed people have made it in Hollywood. You and Herman Monster, nigga. You know.
Nevertheless, while 50 was making his way back to mogul status, he still made time to troll his first baby mama and his first son Marquise, whose bitterness from almost being burned to death began to play out on social media.
You see your son yet? Nah, I ain't heard from 6ix9ine. He better than Marquise, though.
Did he just say he'll claim a rat?
Oh, nah, I don't want no parts of that cheese y'all eating over here, big fella.
Besides, 50 had been moved on privately with his new boo Daphne Joy, and his son, Sire. His first son was no longer needed. He could have got hit by a car and it wouldn't have mattered. Unfortunately, this Daphne woman will become a weak point for Curtis that would have an odd way of revealing itself. Odd, as in, you guessed it, humiliation. You see, for the majority of this entire story, there was a long-term beef brewing with Mr. Combs. To the naked eye, 50 would let go of the fact that Sean had a chance to sign Curtis early but declined. But to the third eye, Puffy was his biggest enemy yet. While 50 worked his way from a gritty mixtape artist to one of hip-hop's top 3 moguls, even getting awards handed to him by the diddler himself.
And the award for best rap video goes to, come on, Playboy, 50 Cent.
None of that was enough. Hell, Diddy formed $1 billion business out of Ciroc Vodka, so Boo Boo would put his funds together and create Effin' Vodka, an entire liquor company to compete and try to humiliate. On the other end, Diddy was definitely involved in the back and forth, moving more like a man trapped in Machiavellian tactics, striking where it hurts behind the scenes. But publicly, he was nothing but smiles and composure. He even offered to take Curtis shopping, angering Boo Boo.
You asked him to take him shopping?
Yeah, I thought he needed some clothes.
I looked at him like, what'd you just say? Let me move, man, before I do something.
But I called cap on this. 50 took Mace shopping. He was further disappointed by Puff, who gave Curtis an unbelievable number to buy Mace and Betha out of contract. I mean, Mace always been one of Diddy's favorites.
35 for 36, and Mace was staying there. I went to use the bathroom, and it was a dildo on the bathroom sink. And when I came out, I asked him what's about. He like, that's homeboy's joint, you know, I don't know what it's about.
None of us would quite understand why Curtis was so furious with Diddy. He swore it was the shopping trip, but something wasn't making sense. And boy, were we all about to find out. The dots will begin to connect on what will become the most telling chapter between the two.
Is that what you and 50 Cent doing? Are y'all battle rapping? Is it beef, real beef? Well, I'm gonna say this, but I guess one day his mom may have been creating content on Star Island somewhere, and he was walking around on his second lap.
So he's insinuating that, like, yo, 50's baby mama was in a freak off with Diddy, and the son was just walking around with nobody to care for him, and Raw sees him.
In 2023, Diddy's troubles begin to solidify with a civil case from Lil Rod and Cassie, which the latter would turn criminal.
Now it's not Diddy do it, it's Diddy done. They don't come like that unless they got a case.
50 would finally be in position for his kill shot. His IG would become news feed of memes, gaslighting, and flat-out gossiping about the bad boy mogul. And any other rapper that 50 had previous issues with, he would try everything to connect them to Diddy. Announcing in a documentary he would produce on Diddy that was set to release after sentencing, so everyone would just move out of the way, including Meek.
Yeah, nigga, no Diddy gang, Meek Millie in real life, don't ever disrespect me, you heard? Talk that Meek.
But something interesting was happening. There was a victim, number 2 to be exact. Many would say victim number 2's testimony would raise the chances for Diddy to beat the case, which he would as far as the major charges. Who would the internet allegedly reveal as victim number 2? Yes, Daphne Joy. If true, victim number 2 was once the subject of a misdemeanor assault charge at the hands of Curtis. Now everything began to make sense. The memes, the tweets, and even the soon-to-be-released docuseries, The Reckoning.
Oh, and it's Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, little bitch. I'll have full custody soon, little bitch. You'll be back on OnlyFans in no time, little bitch. Now, how is your day going, little bitch?
Yeah, no, I think he's tweeting through the pain. He's tweeting through the pain.
It's the next to Mace. It's the next to Jock. Look, Puffy might be the destination for anybody going nowhere. Nobody survived him. Look at it.
Yeah, we signed to him right now, dude.
No, we're not. Meanwhile, while Diddy was appealing the case, Daphne moved closer to Diddy's LA mansion to be ready for his release, while Curtis contacted the judge to claim he fears for his life. Hey, that sounds like snitching. The gloves were off. Boo Boo record-breaking docuseries was primarily a hit piece, buying unreleased footage while reconstructing versions of tales previously told about Diddy. He even implied that Sean purposely constructed the East versus West beef, which in reality was going on years before Diddy even became Puff.
Compton.
He even called Diddy foul for wanting to wash his hands after shaking dozens of them.
And you saw him going out and meeting his fans. There was one instance in Harlem, and his reaction when those people
Went away.
Got
in the car and said, I feel like I need to wash, like I'm dirty. It shows you his character.
About victim number 2, she wasn't even mentioned in the documentary.
Now, I'm sure at this moment, there's some 50D writers that's ready to say I must be a big time Puff fan. Not knowing that I have my Surviving Diddy doc myself that I released months prior. That suddenly was demonetized, go figure. But you can catch it on Patreon.
The same guy who denied snitching on Ja Rule and got rid of Meech for being a snitch.
I never folded, never told, never will.
Would pretty much commit the same acts, damn near destroying Diddy's image, almost never to be recovered. All this over Daphne, while diehard fans would ignore the fact everyone wasn't fooled. And when I say everyone, I mean the cap of consciousness even caught on.
When I learned that Sean Combs had seduced and sexually exploited one of 50 Cent's ex-girlfriends, possibly even a mother of one of his children, he had a right to do the documentary.
Whatever your opinion on the matter, can't dispute the fact that the humiliation once again was good for business.
If Sean Combs watches this, what do you think he's going to feel?
Like, wow, this is amazing.
He famously purchased land for a movie studio, which for sure will become a hub of humiliation.
But oh, how personal would this war be? There was no mercy for Diddy, to the point that anyone opposed, they would end up in the same bucket.
Angry at Ye, who popped up at the courthouse one day and was rumored to be a part of the freak-offs.
Are you here to support Mr. Combs?
What? 50's baby mom admitted she was in a freak-off with another rapper and his wife, but it wasn't Diddy.
Dave Blunts, who was working with Ye at the time, would go straight to 50's weakness, bars.
Curtis Jackson with a diss me, nigga must be smoking old fan. Heard your baby mama call a shot 9 times, that's 50 Cent. Diddy pissed on your dirty baby mama. Diddy pissed on your dirty baby mama. Diddy pissed on your dirty baby mama.
Yay, this your mans? If I catch him, I'm pushing him down the stairs.
Because 50 can't rap.
Not even an opinion was safe. Ask Mano and Jim Jones.
Is it acceptable for someone to create a documentary about you without your approval?
It's like
definitely not acceptable. It's facetious and petty.
Right. It's like somebody putting out your sex tape.
First of all, they want somebody doing a documentary about you. You want it to be a dope documentary.
It gotta be dope.
Showing who you are, what you've done,
no
everything you've accomplished. Like, a documentary is a big thing. Like, you don't want nobody doing a documentary about like trying to just make your whole character look weak. Like, that's petty behavior.
Their Let's Rap About It podcast was barking up the wrong tree, and the reply would be swift. It didn't matter that Mano and Jim had a previous acquaintance with Curtis.
You'll love your enemies and hate your friends. Your enemies remain the same, your friends always change.
Avoid altercations at all costs. If it's not worth killing them, don't pursue it.
I didn't have this on my list of things to do, but if you insist, I'll make time. I'm working on buying the space where you film and 50% of your podcast.
All that mattered is that they didn't approve. Well, okay. Suddenly, 50 leaked in audio with the landlord of the property of their podcast.
We also have a partnership agreement where half of what he's building now, his media, belongs to us. So half of the content he's creating, if you want to buy that too, I'll sell you half the company.
Rent was unpaid, and 50% of their earnings, whatever it was, is up for discussion.
Right now he owes, I'm going to say in a short way, at least $80,000, if not $180,000.
They're squatters. Mano's response would be calm and concise. It had to be dealing with the boss of embarrassment. But suddenly, on one gloomy evening, they would turn up the volume a bit. Every member of the podcast would chime in.
Because 50 can't rap.
But there was one response that would shut the show down for Curtis, calling out the humiliation mogul a bluff.
I'm a top shotter who drop dollars and pop collars. You ain't talking about top dollar, do not holler. Niggas can't move us, but nah, we not squatters. They mad cause we fly and niggas cannot swat us.
If you are such the terror you claim, show me.
You know I got power, your shorty got hot shower. Catch her trying to leave like Tasha shot Lala. The bitch not Mala and nigga, you not Allah. Y'all both meet the creator, his first name not Tyler.
This would be quite ironic, being that the both had to endure the Diddy lust.
For your birthday, huh? Why won't you party with me for your birthday, man?
The culture was waiting. The artist who built his own empire on humiliating bars about others surely had to fight back. but he sent a message through voices outside the culture to validate.
Anyone would take 50's career over Fabulous, over Mano, over Jim Jones. He's right. You guys need to sell some records, be relevant, musically, in order for 50 to even try to take out time to jump in the booth.
Let's toast to success, health, and prosperity. I'm planning my new year. When I'm done, I'm coming out to play. Everyone who plays with me wish they didn't in the end.
For the first time in a long time, 50 would declare ceasefire, when really, he's waiting for a slip-up that would occur shortly. Fifth didn't have any time for diss tracks, but plenty time for a feature, as well as another skit.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for Super Bowl 60? Are you ready for the excitement, the adrenaline, Branks and cognac? What the fuck? What happened with the lights, man?
What makes 50 Cent different isn't that he humiliates people, it's that he never stops. The targets change, the platforms change, and the tactics evolve, but the instinct stays the same. Every time, humiliation stayed at the center.
There's two things they tell you to stay away from. They tell you to stay away from religion and stay away from politics, because no matter what you think, someone passionately disagrees with you. All right, and I'll stay away from those things. That's how Kanye up.
Because 50 can't rap.
And the real question isn't who he embarrassed, it's why he still needs to. And if you think the story is finished, you haven't been paying attention.
Please check out my other cap stories from the game, part 1 and part 2. Please join my Patreon to watch this and other cap stories unfiltered and raw. Well, anyways, you know how we like to end our videos over here at Moxy Approve, right? With that water. See y'all here next time on Moxy Approve.